since we're talking about going out in the field, I would just like, if you're a geo, I would just check yourself. When's the last time you saw some rocks? You know, if it's been more than 3 months, like,
Welcome to the Grizzled Geologist Podcast. I'm Keith Carden, your host. Welcome. I've brought my friend Molly Turko back today, and we're going to talk about the importance of getting into the field and about some of the field trips and stuff that she has recently done and what she does with the one of the companies that she works with. But in the meantime, we're looking for guests to come on. Make sure you reach out to me on LinkedIn. Go to my YouTube page, the Grizzled Geologist Podcast. I'm on LinkedIn, Spotify. Feel free to reach out to me on any of the platforms and I'll get back to you. But in the meantime, got Molly with me today, and I'm going to let her do a little quick intro. She's been here before, but then we'll get into it. How you doing, Molly?
great. Thanks for having me on. Hi, everybody. I am Dr. Molly Turko, your favorite structural geologist. I always like to lean in with that. I can't introduce myself without saying it. So there you go.
Yep. Well, that's great. And so we've done a bunch of stuff together. We've become pretty close friends over the last little bit. And you just got back from a field trip. And we kind of discussed wanting to do a podcast, and we thought it would be a good topic to talk about, the importance of getting into the field, some of your experiences out there. I've done a little bit of field work here and there. Every so often I get out there, and it is a kind of formative and important thing to do as a geologist and as a person in general. So, Molly, welcome. What's going on?
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me on again. Yeah, we've kind of been talking a lot lately just as friends, and we keep talking about field trips and going to the field. And, as geologists, we love rocks, right? That's kind of just why we got into this field. But oftentimes we end up with these desk jobs where we're so like neck deep into subsurface data. So it's nice to get out on the rocks, whether it's a field trip or field work or even just kind of going hiking with your family. We just have been talking a lot about the different ways to get in the field, and I lead some field trips. I've been on some pretty cool field trips lately.
Yep.
So we can talk rocks.
Yeah, a good place to start. And I'm sorry I wasn't able to make it. I had this whole Houston move and life going on. But you did the AAPG field trip. How did that go?
That was great. So we had our AAPG MidCon back in early October, and kind of the final leg of the conference was a one-day field trip down to the Arbuckle Mountains, and it was wonderful. We had around 40 participants,
That's a
including
pretty big group.
Yeah. So I was one of the field trip leaders along with Jerry McCaskill. He's a petroleum geologist who's really well versed in southern Oklahoma petroleum geology, structural geology. And then we had Dr. Lonnie Kennedy, who actually lives down there. So he was able to get us into some really cool spots. We went to this quarry. I call it the Viola Quarry. That's not its official name. But you walk into it and you feel like you're in Switzerland in the middle of Oklahoma. There are these huge white cliffs. They're completely fractured up, and then you kind of scramble up the rocks and you get to the outcrop. And when you get up there, you can actually like pick off like this gummy stuff, and it's the asphalt that has seeped out of the rock. And so we talk a lot about kind of petroleum systems, how this group is basically standing in the middle of an oil field exposed at the surface. And then we ask the question, what out of our 5 petroleum system elements, what's missing? Do you know what's missing? You weren't there.
I wasn't there, but I'm going to guess. Yeah, I'm not even going to guess. I want to say depth, but,
Well, depth is what we lost, but we basically had everything at the surface. We had a reservoir, we had a fractured limestone. We obviously had a source because we had a seep. When you're there, you do kind of see the anticlinal structure. So you have the trap. You had migration because the formation is obviously not like high TOC source rock. So the one thing that you're missing once your oil field gets to the surface is your seal.
Oh, okay.
The seal has been eroded.
Okay.
But it was a great trip. We saw a lot of amazing outcrops. Lonnie was incredible. He's brilliant. He took us around and we just had a great time. I'll have to send you some pictures.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry I missed it. That it breaks my heart. And, you know, kind of harkening back to what we were discussing, what's really cool about this, and getting out into the field is that has been the traditional job of the geologist is to understand rocks that are on the surface and kind of project where they go down into the subsurface. And, the Permian Basin is a place that was a big deal here in Oklahoma. Also, many of our formation names come from the town that particular formation is cropping out at. And so we trace this information kind of back down into the subsurface. And yeah, it's just really incredible to be able to see it up in close and in person. But not all rocks are petroleum reservoirs, are they?
No, unfortunately, right?
Right, right. Actually, I would find that a little bit disinteresting, to be honest with you, because it wasn't petroleum that got me into geology. It was badass crystals and pegmatites and, mountain ranges and these kinds of things. All right. Well, what did you guys look at your, you just got back from Nevada. You don't have to get into too many details, but
Oh,
what were the kind of rocks that you were looking at there and the structures and stuff like that?
so I was out there with some of like my personal favorite structural geologists, David Farrell and Adam Kaywood, really amazing structural geologists and good friends and colleagues. And we looked at a lot of normal faulting examples. My favorite part of the trip was going into Mosaic Canyon, which is in Death Valley. Just you could see brittle deformation, you could see ductile
Hmm.
deformation, you could see microscopic deformation, you could like see big picture deformation. And in structural geology, oftentimes we find that a lot of things are fractal in nature. So if you're seeing a process at a very tiny scale or some relationship, such as like the length of your fault, your spacing of the fault, the offset, all of that can oftentimes be upscaled, maybe linearly or logarithmically. So one of my favorite things to look at are definitely those small scale structures on the
Yeah.
outcrop that you can put your finger on,
Hmm.
because you can learn so much from that. You can touch it, you can feel it, you can see how it moves. And then you can like upscale that to things like seismic data or even tectonic levels. And you can just compound the scales on top of each other. And it really helps to kind of physically see that in the field and then take that to your desk job where you're applying it in the subsurface.
Yeah. Well, and that's you kind of touched on a point, we do deal with these really different scales as geologists. And, we're talking from the big mountain down to the piece, the individual parts that we can see in it. And then we're up, a little bit closer, maybe at a road cut where you can see those little pieces a little bit more distinctly. And then the closer you get, it's like an electron microscope. We just get more and more information. And that area that you're in, Death Valley and that kind of area, I did field camp there, and you're just really close to every type of structure, between the
Yeah.
Panamints down to Death Valley, you've got one of the greatest vertical distances in the continental United States. You've got
Yeah.
metamorphic core complexes. When you were
Yeah.
talking about the ductile stuff, yeah, that's when you're getting into the good stuff. Decolomés and, bringing up the middle crust up to the surface of the earth. And then you've got, around Death Valley, you've got all the sedimentology and you can see,
Uh-huh.
the stratified zones. And no, it's just an incredible area. My thesis wasn't too far from there. Southern California is actually a familiar stomping ground for me, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful down there. And we ended up coming out of Las Vegas,
mhm.
which I always tell people if I could move anywhere in the world, granted, I haven't seen the whole world, I might change my mind. But I'd wanna live in, like, Las Vegas, maybe the outskirts of Las Vegas, because there's so many incredible, like, exposed structures down there. You can see normal faulting, reverse faulting, you can see strike slip faulting. Everything is there, and it's the desert, so it's all exposed. My background is from Red Rocks Canyon, and you can see the famous Keystone Thrust up here. If
Mhm.
I could move my head.
Above
So
your,
we have there's
there
the
you go.
Keystone Thrust, and then
Yep.
this is kind of that footwall uplift.
Uh-huh.
So like these red rocks were originally horizontal, and then as this one overrode it, these were got started to get
Bent up.
folded,
Yep.
and then that's gone, and then these are vertical.
Oh,
Sorry
what
for
a
the
great picture.
disappearing hand act.
Yeah, so Keystone Thrust, what are we talking about age-wise? Is that still part of that, like, Mississippian I can't remember the, Absaroka or what's
The severe
yeah,
orogeny.
the severe orogeny, that's right. Yep.
Once you get into Western US, they're like, "Name your orogeny, pick which one."
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, that's so funny, and you had a funny hat that you wore down there that I thought was awesome.
I
Yep.
did, I wish I
Yeah,
had
wish
that.
you had it. You'd have to pop it on, but that's awesome. But that's really cool. Yeah, those big structures were really some of the things that fascinated me the most. Like it really was kind of becoming a geologist. I started at that outcrop level, just being like, hey, these mountains are cool. What do those different beds mean? Again, to where, we're drilling rocks 10,000 feet underground and doing science on them and stuff like that. It's pretty crazy.
Yes, yes.
So you've always kind of done a bunch of field work, right? Like when you're in school, you had field work. You've even kind of got your little cards with the shear sense indicators and you've got to have
Yes,
one around somewhere.
I do.
Yep. And so you have taken staying in the field pretty seriously, like, since I've known you, you've never really detached from that. You've been able to like get a major oil company job and they, kind of support this field stuff that you do. And I just think that's great. So what do you think it is that is so important about getting out there for people? And do you think it's important for other people in the oil and gas business, like engineers and stuff, to get out and see the rocks?
Definitely. I think seeing the rocks keeps you grounded. Oftentimes we can come up with like wild ideas in our head about how rocks should behave or what they look like in the subsurface, or maybe they look a certain way in our perfect little geo model that we're going to run a frac simulation on.
Hmm.
So getting out in the field does it keeps you grounded on your interpretations. It helps you to see things in 3D at the right outcrops. Scale is another big one. Oftentimes we have to run our models at such a big scale just to get the computers to run. But you go out there and you realize like
This is
my
changing
grid
a
cell
lot.
size is completely
Yep.
way too big compared to what we're seeing when I can put my hand on an outcrop or just look at something in general.
Or even see what like a 10 to 15-foot pay zone looks like, right? That was a big connection for me too, where it's like, oh, we're down here mapping and we've got these logs on the screen and everything is in this weird relative scale. And you're thinking in your head, well, how did this 10 feet of the Meisner sandstone blow out
Mhm.
and make 1 million barrels? It like,
Yeah.
you know, and then you think, but then when you go and see that in person, it's like, oh crap, this is twice as much as me. And then you can actually, in a lot of these things, you can actually kind of see the porosity to where you can see you've got the rock and what the space actually looks like, which isn't that much space, we all know. And so, it's a really, I think that is a good way to kind of understand the scale and, these kind of petroleum systems that we've worked with.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. On our Arbuckle field trip, we went to an outcrop um at the Falls Creek camp, and it was the Oil Creek sandstone, and you have
Mhm.
to walk up this road that's a little bit hill. It's like a little bit up a hill, and Lonnie was like, "Look down at your feet." And you see it's like sand. You're like walking on sand, but it's a paved road. And then once you get to this outcrop, you have this beautiful Oil Creek sandstone, and you can just use your fingernail and scrape it off. You can smell
Mhm.
it. It's oil stained.
Nothing
It's
smells better than that, that hydrocarbon in the morning. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, so and so many people it was such a simple basic outcrop,
yeah,
but so many people loved that for what it represents in our subsurface.
yeah,
Like this is an ideal conventional reservoir. This is what we want. This
yeah.
is what works. This is what makes those like booming wells that we love.
It's incredible, really. It really is. Speaking of the Simpson group, Miss Simpson, yeah, the Oil Creek. Let's talk on that a little bit. That is a special. That's like a true. If you hit that, it's a true reservoir. And it's either full of oil or full of water. It seems like. But that one is. That's really incredible that you can see that outcrop. And what does it look like? Like you're saying in person, you could smell the hydrocarbons are in there, but what did the porosity look like? Could you see little voids or it just seemed kind of packed, kind of cement?
I'm ashamed to say I don't think I looked at it with my hand lens
Fair enough.
because there were some like little deformation bands in there. So of course I was on
Focused
the
on
rocks
those.
looking at that.
Yeah.
But let me get some pictures and I'll send you some pictures of the rock. And I don't think I took a sample.
Oh, hey, that's what, when you get out there, that's the other thing. No, it's kind of like when you're drilling a well also, like when you get out there, there's this like uncomfortable chaos a little bit, right? You've got these backpacks, you've got all this gear on, and you're schlepping it around, and sometimes you just don't have you're talking to people, you don't want to take your backpack off, get it out, take a picture, you may not, and you may have looked at too many samples at the last stop. And so this time you've had enough
Yeah,
fun so
that is true.
yeah. Well, that's cool. So what are some of the field trips that you guys do with your what's the other company? I forget every time, we've been talking about it for years.
Yeah, yeah. So I do have a full-time job, but they allow me once a year to usually go out in the field and lead a 5-day structural geology field course. And I do that for a company called Applied
That's
Stratigraphics. They
right.
lead field trips all over the world, internal, external courses, classroom courses, in-house, all the things.
Yeah.
Great company. But my 5-day field trips, it's based out of Las Vegas, Nevada, all 5 days. And then we look at things like normal faulting, strike slip faulting, reverse faulting. We look at fractured reservoirs. There's one of the really cool places, if you have really long arms, you can put one arm on Mesozoic. No, no, wait, hold on. One arm on Paleozoic. You could put your foot on Mesozoic, and then you could put your other arm on Cenozoic. Yeah, you could touch all three geological of those eras. So what happened is you had your severe orogeny, so you had your Mesozoic, Jurassic rocks, basically what's going on in the background,
Yep.
and then you had your Paleozoics override that, and then that was then cut by a
Normal
strike slip
faults
fault
or okay.
because it's off access to like the traditional normal faulting for basin and rains.
Okay.
So you have this strike slip fault that has a little bit of normal offset. So you have like your Cenozoic, then your Paleozoic, and your Mesozoic. And if you stretch your arms out long enough, you can touch all three of them.
That's
And it's like,
awesome.
yeah, yeah. So that's one of my favorite spots to go visit. Yeah, and in Valley of Fire is incredible. We see deformation bands, we see proto-rhytal shear zones, which
Mm.
is a big mouthful.
Mm-hmm.
I'll send you a picture of that, but it kind of explains a process of how the rocks are starting to basically shear and fracture before a fault propagates through them, and you can look at the kinematic indicators.
Interesting.
And then there's more large scale kind of strike slip faults, and we look at where you have zones of tension and contraction along those faults due to steps and bends. It's just really cool. Arrow Canyon is another really cool hike where you hike. It's a valley or like a almost kind of like a slot canyon because it is
Okay.
pretty narrow.
Okay.
And it's right through the middle of like this thrush sheet and see all
That's
kinds of
cool.
structures.
Yeah. Anytime you get down cutting through, a structure like that, that's just an incredible opportunity. So how do
Yeah.
you come up? Are you the one? So say you do the one field trip for applied stratigraphics. And did you come up with the whole curriculum and like, pick the spots, or were those already kind of, what's the thought process on when you put together a field trip like that?
So it's a mix of both. One of my favorite colleagues, Lance Taylor, he trained another colleague and I kind of in the field on a lot of those structures. And then you kind of go to the same spots and you learn what you learned from him or what we learned from him. And then eventually over time, you kind of start to apply your own thoughts and
Hmm.
your own things you want to talk about at the outcrops. And then you maybe go explore some new areas.
That's what I was going to ask.
It's just a matter of getting out there every year or every couple of years, and I try to go someplace new every time I go out there because there might be one or two stops that like aren't my favorite. Like they're still really cool, but it's like, what if there's something better? And if there is something better, I want to find it. So I will try to, use Google Maps or geologic maps and then look up some hiking trails of where to go because
Okay.
I don't think we visit any outcrops off the side of the road. Like everything we have to hike to, or get back in there. Not crazy hiking. It's safe.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
But that's one of the things that I love about the field trip is we're able to kind of get off the roads, get on some hiking trails,
Hmm.
and it's just beautiful out there. But
And so
yes,
will you do that? So you will peel off and like, hey, let me take the car over to this trailhead and do a hike, or how does that?
sometimes
Okay.
So I led a fairly small group. It was a couple years ago. I think we were a total of six. And I was just like, hey, they were really into it. You could tell they weren't bored. They were ready to go, and they were all avid hikers, like very fit. They could have probably done a 10-mile hike with me.
Hmm.
So I just asked them like, hey, there's a new area over here. Do you guys want to go check it out? I've heard this is over here. I think it is. It was another part of a thrust fault.
Okay.
Um, and that turned out to be like an incredible hike. That's now one of my stops.
Awesome. Yeah, see, that's what I was trying
Yeah.
to get at. That makes sense. Yeah, you
Yeah.
adapt and update your formula,
Yes, yes. I do want to get out there. I have about three new areas I want to go see. I need to get out there and rent a Jeep. The
Hmm.
hard thing is I want to go by myself just to do it because I can be very independent, but that can be kind of dangerous, especially driving on like BLM lands and
Yeah,
if
you
you have
kind of do want to buddy up on stuff like that. For sure.
yeah, yeah.
For
So
sure.
I'm gonna get some grad students to come and do some field work.
Yeah, there's no shortage of people that would love to go and do something like that with you. Shit, I would just put something on LinkedIn. You'd have a
Yeah.
100 people sign up. So
Yeah. I might
that's
do
awesome.
that. I probably will maybe do that
Yeah.
fairly soon.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, so how's everything else going for you? You happy with work and everything's hunky dory?
Yeah, work has been pretty good, keeping me busy in a good way. In my downtime, I'm actually doing some research on Switzerland. So
Okay.
I am going to go to Switzerland this summer and do some hiking.
Nice.
Maybe solo hiking, or I might see if there's like a women's hiking group. There's all kinds of people you can find on Facebook. But
Sure.
I have been doing the tectonic history of Switzerland, looking at the geologic maps, trying to find hiking trails. So I am
That's
deep
awesome.
down the Switzerland rabbit trail.
Okay, that's awesome. That sounds like a really fun path to be on for sure. And if you're gonna go this summer, oh, there's so much to do. Yeah, that's incredible. I mean,
Yeah,
I've never been to the Alps, but I can only imagine that
yeah.
it's just
If
gonna
there's
be
anybody
freaking
out
love at
there,
first sight.
if there's anybody who can like give me the down low, hit me up, send me a message, and maybe we can jump on
Yeah,
a
we're
call.
bound to know somebody that knows about it, or someone will see the podcast or something like that. No kidding.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what are we thinking here? What are your suggestions to help people get out to the field and enjoy the beauty of nature and the warmth of the sunshine and the hardness of the rocks?
Well, I would say it takes two kinds of people. One might be somebody who's able to do it spontaneously. It's winter right now, and oftentimes what I will do is keep my eye on that like 10-day weather planner.
Hmm.
And if I see a day that's going to be sunny and 50 degrees and, warmer, because I don't do cold.
Yeah.
So that's
Join the
kind of
club.
my limit. It's got to be like 55 and sunny, and I'm like, okay, I can
Hmm.
probably bundle up and handle it.
Yeah.
Just look for those days and go. It could be a weekend, or if you can afford the PTO, then just do it. I'm here in Oklahoma, so when those days hit, it's always typically going to be the Wichita Mountains.
Yeah.
Just because it's about an hour and a half, 2-hour drive. I've been there plenty of times. I know where to go. I know where I love to go.
Hmm.
But then you have the other kind of people who really have to plan it.
Yeah.
Maybe you need a few weeks, maybe you need a month, maybe you're juggling family. And in that case, you can't always be predictable with the weather. So, maybe you're planning more for the fall or for the spring, or maybe it's a larger family trip.
Yeah.
Anytime you're going on like a family trip or road trip or something, get on like Google Earth, or there's those geocache. I think
Yeah.
geocache is how
Yeah.
you say it. There's those geocache sites, and just see what's going to be in the area. If your family allows it, just, take an hour deviation and go look at some dinosaur tracks or
Not
some
gonna
weird
happen with
geology.
me. Like there's take no prisoners on our road trip.
Yeah.
I just took him. Well, mom brought him down and stayed with us for the first part of Thanksgiving, like kind of Monday through Wednesday, and then she left him with me. But yeah, no, she stopped for him on the way down, and no, not. You better get a water bottle out. No, but we did. It would be hard for me to stop on the trip. I'd have to make it a planned trip.
Yeah.
We do not. We
Yeah.
just close our eyes and drive. So
I can't recommend enough those roadside geology books. If
yes.
you're taking any amount of a road trip, definitely get one of those
I
guys
have
out.
them, and I have them for all the main states around here. And Oklahoma is like one of the latest additions to the
Yeah.
to the publications, is it not? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Neil
Sunison?
Schoennesser.
Yep.
Huh?
Was it Sunison that did it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I
no,
think that
that's a
was one
big
of his
deal.
last big projects before he retired, and
Yeah.
like as soon as that book was out, I had to have a copy.
For sure. I was like, I saw it I saw it immediately. And I was like, oh, yes. I mean, it happened. I mean, it couldn't have been 12 years ago. I mean, it's not that long ago that it happened.
No, I feel like it was maybe right before COVID or sometime during
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used it a lot during COVID, just highlighting and some, bookmarking stuff.
Yep. Yep. And just about every state, well, every state does have some geology. You get to the Midwest and it can get kind of flat and grass covered, but you'd be surprised. There's a lot of outcrops, a lot of rolling hills and road cuts that, there's a bunch of geology kind of everywhere we go. Those books are amazing for kind of pointing it out. So,
They are great Christmas
oh,
gifts.
that's awesome. Hey, well, we're coming up on our time. You're going to have to do words of wisdom. You forgot. You've already given a bunch today, but we got to come up with something quick.
Okay, okay. I mean, gosh, I almost want to give the same thing I gave last time, but since we're talking about going out in the field, I would just if you're a geo, I would just check yourself. When's the last time you saw some rocks? If it's been more than 3 months,
Yeah, get on it.
yeah, yeah, that's too long.
That's awesome. That's
Check yourself
awesome.
the last time you went in the field, and if it's been more than a few months, definitely either do it yourself, find a local one-day field trip, beg your boss for a field trip to go
Yeah,
on.
just go to Edmond and touch the Garber.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us. We're going to wrap it up here. I'm Keith Carden. This is the Grizzled Geologist. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all the fun stuff. Again, I'm looking for people to come on. I'm down here in Houston and I got the time and the place. So to all of you geologists out there, you better check yourself and get in the field. Thanks, Molly. Bye now. Let me stop it.
You have to work for it. Don't be crazy. And work for your money.